Bye, honey. All righty. Okay, so I think we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and get my presentation up. Just so I don't frighten you with my ugly desktop. All righty. Okay, so I haven't met a lot of you, but I do see a lot of familiar names. So I want to introduce myself in case you don't know me. My name is Debbie Barnett, and I am a Mah Jongg enthusiast. I absolutely love sharing what I know about the game. I love teaching the game and running events. You can check out the website, www.MahjCon.com. I'll put that in the chat here. You could check out the website. Got a lot of good information. Read about our event coming up in October. I would absolutely love to see some of you there. It is just a fabulous, very informative, educational, and lots of Mahjong, a time for people to celebrate their passion and love for the game. I've been playing since I'm in my mid-20s, and I've been teaching since 2006. So I've got a little bit of Mahjong behind my belt. And oh, somebody got kicked out and is just coming back in. All righty, let me go ahead. Whoops, I picked up the wrong presentation. Sorry about that. Let me go ahead and open it. So I do run this weekly, every Wednesday night, which is all about, like I said, building strategy. I play against these bots that are really tough competitors on I Love Maj. And I talk through every Charleston move, the hands that I'm making, switching out hands, keeping track of hands, all kinds of things to help you build your skills. So if that's something that you think you might be interested in, please join me on Wednesday nights. It's 6:30 to 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. And again, if anybody has any suggestions for a better time that works East and West Coast, feel free to let me know. You could put it in chat. I've been trying to work out something, but every single live stream is available for replay. So you're still going to get the benefit. If you can't make an event, you could still come on and watch it, which is, which is great. So it'll be available on YouTube. Now, if you're not subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do so, because that way you'll get notice when I post a video and when one is ready to be watched. So please do. It's MahjCon, MahjCon. Please subscribe to the channel, click the bell to get notifications, and that way you'll be notified. And Renee said, is this for the Wednesday night meetings? Nope, this is not. This tonight is all about Mahjong League rules, some of the more complex ones, and some that don't even make it to the rule book. So this is going to be an educational and informative hour, maybe a little over an hour event. All right, let me go ahead and see if I could pull this up now and share my screen. And that way we could get started soon. All righty. Okay. So I will be keeping track of my chat from Zoom. I'm going to be keeping track of my YouTube chat as well, because we've got people watching on YouTube as well as Zoom. Okay, so tonight is all about, let me get the right review up here, slideshow. It's all about the National Mahjong League rules. Now, the league's rules, it's something I'm very passionate about, is following the rules. But I just want to let everybody know that I am not opposed to house rules and things that change up the game. What I don't care for is taking the basics of the game and changing them up drastically. So if there's a rule written in the rule book, I believe those rules should be followed. If you want to add a little spice to the game by adding something like a hot wall or a cold wall, or paying out doubles if you roll doubles on the dice, things like that, I think are great because they do spice the game up and they make it really interesting. But the reason I'm doing this tonight is because I also run a Facebook group with my partner, Tina Goddess. And the Facebook group is called Ask the Mahjong Teacher. And maybe many of you found and heard about this on Ask the Mahjong Teacher. And I'm passionate about helping people learn about the game and the rules. And so that's what that group is geared toward. And I know that we have a whole new generation of Mahjong players that have learned online because of COVID. And I bet if I asked you to please, we've got somebody from Georgia. If I ask you to into the chat window, how many of you learned online? I could guarantee I'm going to get a good amount of people that have learned online. And what happens when you learn online? I mean, I'm excited that you're learning, period. But what happens when you end up learning online is you're not playing, if you're playing against bots, you're not playing against real people. If you're playing against real people, you're more lax. You're liable to do things that you wouldn't do in person because you're not playing for money. You're not really pressured with somebody sitting around the table. And of course, nobody should be critiquing your game, but sometimes, you do feel like that's going on, even if nobody says anything at all. And so, with that said, because of a lot of people learning online, they are not getting the rules. They're not getting the rules. And so this is not about basic rules, because if you learned how to play the game, you know the basic rule. These are rules that are a little more complicated, that if they come up, you're going to know about them. This is about some of the rules that are not even in the rule book. They may never make it to the rule book, but they're repeated over and over and over again in an annual bulletin sent out by the league. Now, if you don't know about the rule book, which is not really called a rule book, it's called Mahjong Made Easy, and it's published by the National Mahjong League, and they sell it on their website. It could be a little confusing reading it sometimes and they're not always very clear and concise, so it could be a little bit confusing. And so I'm here tonight to help you figure out some of the more complex ones, things that do come up from time to time or pretty often that might be difficult if you're reading the book and trying to figure out. And the league, by the way, sends out an annual bulletin. You may all get it. If you order one card from them, you get on their mailing list and you will get one annually. All right, so let's go ahead and get started here with, let me move this out of the way, not getting confused. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about the top 10 most confusing rules of all time, or at least they're my idea of what the top 10 most confusing rules are. The first one we have is changing in exposure. Okay, I get asked this question quite often, but you can change a valid exposure before you've discarded. So if you call a tile from the table and put up an exposure and you've added one too many jokers, and you realize you don't need that many jokers in that exposure, maybe you don't need any at all, you can go ahead and remove that joker. You could also add. You forgot to put up one of your tiles, you can add before you discard. Now, you could take notes, of course, but I also want to know that I want you to know that I have, and I'll show it to you at the end, a 2-page infographic that's going to have everything we discussed tonight. So you could print it out, you could laminate it, keep it with you in your MahJongg bag, and it'll be a really nice, handy reference for you in case something comes up, which is what most of these things we're talking about are going to be one of the more confusing types of rules. So, okay, so that's number one. Pretty easy, pretty simple to understand. You could do this, no problem at all. Here is the source. I always note where I found the source. So if you do have the book, you'll be able to find it in the book. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate, please, to let me know. You know, if you have a question, put it in there and I will go ahead and watch out for it. Let's see, so I'm just reading about some of these. Somebody said they learned at the community center just before COVID. Well, even that would be challenging. So if you're a brand new player and you just learned, you spent a long time not being able to reinforce what you learned and probably had to get online and start playing online. And, you know, it's challenging. It's not an easy game. It's quite complex. Can we go over a specific rule? Well, if there is something that's not covered here, Phyllis asked, can we go over a specific rule? Put it in chat when we're done and we'll go over it. How's that? All right, I think that answers your question, at least I hope so. All righty, so now we're going to go to the second one, which is a joker exchange resulting in Mahjong. And this is another thing that's asked quite often. And if you're playing online, you may not really be paying attention to the point values that you're getting and what's going on. But when you're playing in person, this is an important thing to know. So if you do a joker exchange and it gives you Mahjong, it's a self-picked Mahjong. I had someone the other day that told me that they had been playing this all wrong for quite a long time. So this is good to know. Yes, and if you're playing for money, the winner would be paid double the value of the hand by all players. If you don't play for money, play for points, because having some kind of a point system or a goal makes it even more interesting when you're playing in person. All right, so this one is another pretty easy one. And it can be found in Mahjong Made Easy, page 21, number 17. Now, this one comes into play with other important things too, but it is important to know this because a lot of people don't know what actually is the beginning of a player's turn. Well, it is not when you pick your tiles in and during the Charleston or right after the Charleston. It actually is when you've either picked a tile from the wall or you call a discarded tile for exposure. Now, this particular rule is not in the rule book. So if you go to the back of the National Mahjong League card, it's mentioned there. So this is something good to know. All right. Okay, this is a biggie for me. Okay, this one is a real big dilemma these days, and especially because those of you that learn to play online and that play online with bots or other players are not picking up a tile, physically picking up a tile and having to rack it. The computer's doing it all for you. So that's one thing that's a challenge. The other thing is that there are a lot, because this game has grown tremendously, there are a lot more teachers out there teaching the game. Some of the teachers don't even own the rule book. They're just going by what they know and what they've learned. And some of them are even, not that they're making it up, but since they don't know it, they're coming up with maybe their own version of what they think is right. Well, the definition of a racked tile is one that is sitting completely on the sloped part of your rack. So you have two parts of the rack. You have the top where you expose. You have the part where your tiles sit sloped, just like in the game of Scrabble. And that tile needs to sit there completely to be considered racked. And I'm going to talk about why that's so important. Tapping or clicking is not defined as a rack tile. So I have been paying attention to people that I play with, and I do events, smaller events in my home. And during these events, you know, I pay attention because these people come because they want to improve their game and strategy. But I pay attention to how the mechanics that they're using. And I'm amazed at how many people were taught to go tap, tap. If you were one of those people that were taught to do a tap, tap, I would absolutely love it if you would let me know. I won't hold it against you, I promise, because it's not your fault if you were taught to do a tap, tap. But I'd just be curious to know if you knew that you had to place the tile completely on your rack. Now, why is this important? This locks your turn in. That officially begins, as that previous screen said, your turn. If you are holding the tile in your hand, if you, and I call it admiring it. I mean, they're pretty, but they're not so pretty. No, some of the tiles are absolutely fabulous. But if you are tapping or clicking or one tap or however you do it, and somebody else says call because they want to call the previous tile that was discarded, they're going to get it. And I've had people tell me they've been playing consistently with this tapping process. It's not easy to break. I mean, I did another whole live stream on habits and behaviors, and that's also on YouTube if you didn't get to see it. But that's another topic, is that it's difficult to change your habits once you get used to doing something one way. That's why it's so important to learn the right way. You can change it, though. You could definitely change it. And here's the reference to where you can find this rule if you have the book. All right, now this is another interesting one, and I was going to see if I could actually show the tiles, which I had them set up, and I realized that my background does not permit me to do that. However, there is a whiteboard feature, and I was going to try it so that I could actually show you how it works, but I'm going to talk through this to see if you understand it. So this is a situation that comes up quite often. Multiple players want to do a blind pass. All right. If this happens, we use what's called an IOU. And I believe that Tom Sloper was the one who coined that IOU method, and I believe that the league adopted it as well, but I think he's the one that came up with the idea originally. Tom Sloper from Sloperama, he's wonderful. He's been another incredible person sharing his passion and everything he knows about the game and the rules as well. So if you're going to do an IOU, East would start out the process. And let's just say East only has 2 tiles. He passes 2 tiles to the receiving player. Now that player who didn't have enough tiles can take 1 tile and pass it on. Now the next player who also wanted to do a blind pass is going to receive from that player, whether it's the first left or last right. So you have to picture how this is going. I'm going to see if I can get my whiteboard up. And then it's repeated around until it gets back to East, who now has enough tiles to say, here are the tiles that I owe you. It's very easy if you put tiles out and experience it. You could do it even if somebody, it doesn't have to be 4, it could be more than 4. And it could be the same sort of situation that occurs with less than the 4 players. Let me see if I could possibly get this up, and I don't know if I'll be able to do it with sharing, but I don't know if I want to mess up. Well, what I could do is I was going to do this, and I did. Again, I really thought that I was going to be able to share my screen and show the tiles right in front of me. What I'll do is I'll create a diagram, and I'll put a link to it in the description for those of you that want it, because it could be very confusing. But if you follow this using tiles in front of you, you could see how it happens, and it's pretty darn easy to make this happen. And that is on page 13 of Mah Jongg Made Easy. All righty, so let me just see if there's, so at a tournament, somebody said at a tournament, they said when you discard, it must be placed on your rack top before. Yeah, and that's gonna come up a little bit further about having to call a tile and where you place a call tile. That's going to be in here. All right, let's go to the next one. All right, so this is like one of my least favorite rules of all time. For years, we all played that if 2 people called a tile for an exposure, the next in line to pick, the closest player in line to pick, would get the tile. So if, let's say, player B calls the tile and player, let's just say East just went, okay, East through. Player B called the tile, and then player C said, I want that too. Well, player B would be the next closest one in line to picking. They would automatically get it. But with this rule, simultaneous call for an exposure or for Mahjong, if 2 people say, and this has to be, there's been a lot of controversy about simultaneous too. Well, what makes it simultaneous? It's got to be fairly close. It can't be 30 seconds. I can't even be 10 seconds later. Okay, it has to be within a few seconds. Call, like that. Okay, so there's like a second or 2 in between. Now the rule is that if 2 people want that same tile, the person who starts to expose tiles on top of their rack gets that call. Well, a lot of people were not happy about this because it doesn't even address pick up the call tile first, because that really makes more sense, because after all, that's the action that we're doing. We're calling a tile, right? But instead, they've made it about exposing tiles. So 2 people say, I want that 8 crack. I call, all right? Right at the same time, and player C is not next in line, puts up tiles on top of his rack to go along with the 8 crack, let's say, that he's calling. And the other player who is next in line, player B, because East was the one who discarded, they're out of luck. They're out of luck. Now, why was this rule created? The rule was created because some very advanced players were not happy with the fact that somebody could be sleeping on the job or not paying attention while they're playing. And so player B is next in line because he's just discarded, and player B, did not say anything right away, but player C says, I'll call. And all of a sudden, 30 seconds later, before player B has finished doing what he needs to do, player B said, you know, I mean, of course, they didn't put their tiles up because if that happens, it's done. But player B is, you know, now saying, I want to call. And guess what? They would get that call as long as that other player didn't rack expose or pick up the call tile and put it up on top. So that's why this rule was implemented. This is one rule I don't love. I play it because it is a rule. And like I said, I like to follow the rules, but it's a tough one. And I know there's a lot of people that still play next in line. Matter of fact, tournaments do that because it prevents confusion. Oh my goodness, the tournament director would be called over every minute. You know, I said it first, I got it up. No, I got the tiles up. Oh, it would be a mess. It would be a mess. So anyway, that's the way the rule is, and that's the way it's supposed to be played. People are trying to get them to change it, but they're not doing a good job at listening to our requests. Oh well, oh well. All right, so now the new bulletin, yeah, we're gonna, well, the new bulletin doesn't address the first to expose, Connie, unless I missed it, but they do have the new rule in there, which we'll talk about. Okay, so top 10 most confusing rules. This one is reasons to call a player's hand dead. And these are reasons not including a mahjong and error. These are good things to have because a lot of times people just be like, oh yeah, go ahead. Oh yeah, take it back. Go ahead, you could do it, no problem. All right, look, like I said, if you play a very relaxed game like that, you know, play the way you play. I'm not trying to change the way you play. But if you want to get to a more strategic level of play, implementing the rules is going to get you there. Forgiving everybody and letting things slide is not going to help up level your game. So here are some reasons. Exposing a hand that's not on the National Mahjong League card. Some of these are quite obvious. Exposures and what have been discarded reveal a player's hand cannot be made. So this would be a situation where you can see that there are tiles up in someone's exposures and you could see what's on the table. And you know that a player who has exposures up needs a pair of something, and the pairs are the other pair that they need. Or the, you know, there's if they need a flower and all 7 flowers are out, and that's the only hand that you know they could be making, that would be a reason for that hand to be declared dead. And let me preface one thing, because a lot of people don't know this. Never call your own hand dead. Never. You just play. If you know it's dead, you try and switch up. If you can't switch up and there's nothing you can do, you just play as defensively as possible, throwing out the safest of all your tiles, and you keep playing that way throughout the game. All right, so what's another reason to call a player's hand dead? Exposing a concealed hand. I know that's a real painful one, especially when you're a new player. I do see a lot of people highlighting their concealed hands. I'm not opposed to that. If that makes you feel more comfortable and it helps you out, go right ahead. Highlight those hands away. Player has too few or too many tiles. Oh, this bullet was supposed to be, this is a bullet right here, by the way. It's supposed to be a bullet. Whoops. Let me go back. So that's actually another one. Player has too few or too many tiles. Again, you observe somebody that has too few or too many tiles during the game, you go right ahead and you declare their hand dead. Don't feel bad about it. First of all, when you declare somebody's hand dead, guess what happens? You get more picks from the wall. It's going to help you get mahjong. Now, somebody could say, but what about if they have my tiles in their rack? That could happen. That could happen. But you're going to have still a better chance of mahjonging because there may be more jokers in the wall. All right, the next one, which is on the same line, should be a bullet. Player picks out a turn. That's another reason to declare someone's hand dead. Player picks from the wrong end of the wall and racks the tile. If they don't rack it, they can just put it back. That's okay. But if they rack it, it's over. It's over. Player pushes out the wrong wall and a tile has been picked and racked. So there's one is picking from the wrong end and one is pushing out the wrong wall. Pick right, push left. I know that's a confusing one to keep track of in the beginning when you are a newer player as well. All right, let's go ahead. There's some more here. If a misname discard is noticed, it must be renamed. So this is all about misnamed tile. Now, somebody asked me recently, they were told that if they misnamed the tile, they had to be the one to rename it, but it does not matter. Out of 4 people playing, of course, the one that's misnaming it is not included in that, but out of the other 3 players playing, somebody is bound to see it. Unless you are 4 very new players all playing together, that could be a time where that could be missed. But one of the things about Mahjong is that it's not just about listening to what's being discarded, it's about watching what's being discarded. That's very important. All right, now, if a player declares Mahjong on a misnamed discard, the declarer gets the win. And the erring player pays the winner 4 times the value of the hand. Now, this is a kind of a hard one sometimes to wrap your head around, right? Because the previous bullet says, you know, you can just rename the discard. You have to rename the discard. But the second bullet says, nope, if somebody mahjongs on a misnamed tile, they get the win. I'm not so sure I love this rule because why isn't that winner responsible as well to be watching the table? But the National Mahjong League allows this. All right. Okay, now we've got Mahjong in error. Oh boy, these are, okay, probably to me the most confusing because the way they have the penalties is not consistent throughout. They're slightly different. So if you don't have a reference or you don't have the book right with you or something, it can be very confusing. Okay, one thing I do have in here in this first paragraph that's most important. When somebody says Mahjong, if anybody wants to admit it and put it in chat, how many people have very quickly thrown their hand in? Not everybody, right? Okay, so it's not uncommon. I play with people that have been playing for umpteenth years and they still throw their hand in, or they destroy the wall because they're starting to, you know, push everything back in to get ready to rebuild the wall. It's going to prevent your hand from going dead if you do that. So that's one way to eliminate your hand going dead. All right, so here are some of the scenarios. Player A declares Mahjong in error, but does not expose tiles, and other players have not destroyed their hands. That player's hand is dead, but the game, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Sorry. but does not expose tiles and other players have not destroyed their hand, the game continues with all 4 players and there's no penalty. I'm sorry, I read that wrong. All right, now the next one is player A declares Mahjong in error and exposes all or part of their hands. The game continues, but that player that exposed all or part of their hand with an incorrect Mahjong, all players pay they stop and all players pay the winner. So they all, everybody gets, pays the winner. Okay, so that's how that one works. So those 2 are pretty easy, but we get a little bit more challenging here. Player A declares Mahjong in error. At the same time, player B exposes part of their hand. Now later on, player C's hand goes dead. Okay, again, if you don't have this, and I'm going to show you where I have the charts of these as well, which is going to be even more helpful to see how this works. The remaining player D is paid by player C double the value that player C was attempting to make. Now tell me that's not confusing. Try to chew on that one. Okay, player A has the Mahjong in error. Player B has exposed part of their hand. Now those 2 are dead. Player C's hand now goes dead. Player D is paid only by C. Double the value that player C was attempting to make. So the first 2 players, when they go dead, their penalty is kind of built into the fact that they have to stop playing. And player C, being the 3rd player to go dead, leaving 1 standing player is the one that gets really whammed. All right. Let's see if we can figure this this number 4 situation. Player A declares Mahjong in error. Now we have B and C tossing in their hands. Well, what happens here? In this situation, player A, who was the one who declared Mahjong in error and started the ball rolling, plays player D, the only surviving player, double the value of the hand that player A was playing. Okay, it's the way they created it, and it is very confusing. We're gonna talk about these a little bit before I go on to the next section, after we go through these Mahjong and errors. Okay, 5. Player A says Mahjong, and it's a bad Mahjong. Player D destroys the wall before confirming the validity of player A's hand. What happens? Player D has to play players A, B, and C, the lowest value on the card. Okay, I promise I'm not going to give you an exam on this, because if you think that I can remember these completely by heart, I still have to refer back. All right, let's see what we have here. Okay, so are there any questions on any of these complicated ones? But again, I'm going to show you where I have these in a chart form on my website. And like I said, I'm also going to have the infographic for you all. I'm going to get it to you in a link in the description so you guys can have it printed out and keep it with you. Somebody said number 9. So do the players with the dead hand not pay the value of the hand? Number 9. Wait a minute. Number 9. Where's 9? Number 9. Which one? What am I missing? Oh, number 9. This number 9. No, well, what is paid is exactly, these are what is paid. Sorry, I keep doing that. Exactly what's written here is in the rule book. Examples 3 and 4. Yeah. This is what it is based on what happened and who started, who was the first to be dead, the second to be dead, and then the third one in this case goes dead, and that third one is the only one that gets penalized. This is complicated stuff. I'm telling you, it's confusing. Okay, if I were to rewrite the rules, I would have one simple scenario of what would happen if hands goes dead, if anybody's hand goes dead. This is way too complicated, but it's the rule. These are the rules and I can't change them up, but it's good to know about them. Okay, so this is another big one and it's pretty confusing at times about jokers. Joker exchanges after a Mahjong in error. Jokers in correct exposures made prior to a Mahjong in error are still available for exchange. Let's break it down. Somebody's hand is called dead, and they already had up exposures before their hand went dead. Okay, if those exposures are still available for exchange. Now, here's something that a lot of people don't do. It's a good thing to do. To prevent confusion, the exposure that made the hand dead should be returned to the player's rack. So you don't get confused, you don't forget which one was the exposure. So let's say there are 2 exposures up already, and somebody puts up a pung instead of a Kong. And that hand, by doing that, that's the only hand they could have been playing. Somebody says you're dead, you put up the wrong exposure, that exposure goes back into the player's rack. Easy done. Now you don't have to worry about figuring out which jokers are still alive. All right, now, jokers from an exposed concealed hand are no longer available once Mahjong in error is declared. And you take the entire hand and put it back in the player's rack to prevent confusion. The reason that this rule is the way it is because it was wrong all along. It was wrong all along. And it wasn't until somebody figured it out that they were playing the wrong hand, that their hand was declared dead. So just know, concealed hand is declared dead. All jokers are no longer up for grabs. You just return them right to the rack. Boom, easy. Now you don't have to figure it out. All right, any more questions? I'm watching and I don't see questions, so I'm keeping an eye. All right. Okay, now the wrong player discards as East. Okay, these things happen. If you don't know how to handle them, you're going to make up your own rule, right? If the wrong player discards as East, they will be short a tile. If this is noticed later in the game, the tiles are thrown in and the game starts over. Now, if that player didn't discard as East, but they're missing a tile, let's say they accidentally discarded before they, picked and then didn't, or let's say they have too many tiles, they picked and forgot to, they didn't discard or something and they picked or whatever. So they have an extra tile in their hand. And then it's noticed at some point, their hand is declared dead. But in this particular one, I didn't know the rule. And the question was asked to me and I couldn't answer the rule. So I did scour it, and my trusty friend Donna, who we always bounce rules off of each other, we both went to, bat trying to find this in the rule book and on Tom Sloper's site, and we couldn't find it anywhere. So I called the National Mahjong League because they're there to answer our questions Monday through Friday, which is really nice. And I had a conversation with Sandy, and Sandy told me this is how it works. Now, I can't guarantee, I hate to admit it, that if I called somebody and got somebody else at the league, that they'd give me the same answer. But when I get an answer, that's the way I play the game until I get notice otherwise. Now, I didn't even realize when we turned this slide, we're now on rules not found in the Mahjong Easy rule book. So the next rules that we go over are all rules that are not in the rule book. They're either in a bulletin, they were a phone call. And now somebody asked a question, let me just back up. Does Mahjong in error have to be called when a concealed hand has an exposure? Okay, so Mindy, so the question is, does Mahjong in error have to be called when a concealed hand has an exposure? If you notice and you know that someone's playing a concealed hand, you do call that player's hand dead. You want to make sure that you're right. A lot of people don't call people's hands dead only because they're nervous about whether they're going to be, right or wrong, and that's taken care of, at the end of the game. But nonetheless, somebody's going to have to stop playing when they're declared dead. When their hand is declared dead. So the jokers are up for grabs until it becomes a dead hand. Very often you don't know a concealed hand is being exposed, but there are some blatant ones. Okay, so there are some that you know right away. All right, so then I got another question regarding Rule 10 and jokers in play. Your rule said they are dead when Mahjong is called in error. Okay, let's go here. Okay. Jokers in an exposure made prior to Mahjong in error are available for exchange. Is that the one you're talking about, Mindy? I want to make sure. Rule 10, second paragraph. Okay. Jokers from an exposed concealed hand. Yeah, they're no longer valid. That's when it's declared. When it's declared. So up until it's declared dead, those jokers may be exchanged during the game because nobody knows it's a dead hand. Once that hand is declared dead, at that moment, somebody says, hey, you've exposed tiles on a concealed hand. Or it's somebody has a Mahjong and somebody says, you're dead. That's a concealed hand. Then all of those tiles go back in the rack and no other additional jokers that may still have, been available. They're no longer available. So I hope that answers your question. All righty, so we know this now. What happens there? Wrong player assumes East position. Now this is a little different than if the wrong player discards as East, leaving them short a tile. This one is they took the dice, they rolled the dice, they broke the wall, and they were not supposed to be East. So the wrong player actually assumed East position. So if this happens, the game continues, and at the start of the second game, the rightful East would begin. And then the player who assumed East incorrectly is skipped a turn until 4 games have been played. And then they get to be East. They get to be East again. No, they don't get to be East again. They get to start playing again. I'm not playing, but they get to be included in the game and be East. So this is another one that is not in the rule book. And I had no idea about this rule, and somebody had asked about it. So I called and I asked Sandy again, and Sandy gave me this information. It is partially stated on page 19, number 8, but it is not completely stated. So it talks about the beginning of a player's turn. It doesn't talk about this whole scenario right here. So, and actually, let me read, oh, I have my book right here. Let me read what 19.8 says to you. Oh, it actually says part of it. Okay. It says this is a little bit confusing too. If a player incorrectly assumes east position, the player continues to finish the game. The next game reverts back to the rightful east and the round continues, skipping east for the player who erred. And what was confusing and why I called the league was because if the incorrect player, no, okay, so this one is okay. I was thinking if the incorrect player assumes east position, they would, yeah, okay. So if the incorrect player, I'm going to think this out loud because these are so confusing, I get confused thinking about it. If the incorrect player ended up rolling the dice and breaking the wall, they would end up with an incorrect, no, they would not. They would have the correct tiles. They would have the correct tiles because they're going to break the wall and the tiles are going to be dealt out. Okay, but nonetheless, I was confused about this, so I called and got verification on this on the phone because it is a little confusing. And I think there's another rule in the book that kind of contradicts it. And I don't want to go there, but there is a rule that contradicts this. All right, so let's go on and let me just see if anybody wants one. Okay, that's good. Okay, so this is one that I had previously, but I'll just mention it again because it is one that's not in Mah Jongg Made Easy, and that's what marks the beginning of a player's turn when you pick a tile from the wall or you call a discard, and it's only on the back of the National Mahjong League card. Commitment to a pick from the wall. Many people get a little confused with this as well, but if you lift or move a tile from the wall, you're committed to that pick. If you merely touch it and change your mind, you're okay. But take a look. This is a pretty important rule as far as I'm concerned, isn't it? And it's the last time it was mentioned was in the 2018 bulletin. If you have not seen the bulletin, well, I'm assuming everybody has, this is what it looks like if you can see it. I don't know if you guys can see it because I'm sharing my screen. Can you guys see it? No? No. I could show it to you after, but if you ordered a card from the league at least once, you will be getting an annual bulletin. Many of the Q&As in the bulletin are repeated. If they haven't had enough questions to fill it, you'll see a repeated one, or maybe somebody asked the question again and they felt it was important enough. So, all right. Now, Phyllis said in a tournament, you touch a tile and it's yours. Yes, 100%. That's how I run my tournaments. Tournament rules are different. It would be so nice if tournament rules and the National Mahjong League rules all matched, but unfortunately, some of the tournament directors don't agree with some of the Mahjong League rules, including that first to expose rule we talked about. Oh, I don't like that rule. I guess I'm sounding like I'm whining a little bit. Okay, let's go on. Commitment to a call, to calling a tile. A lot of times people get these mixed up. Pick from a wall, calling a tile. You can change your mind. about the call, as long as you have not placed the call tile on the top part of the rack, the flat part, or taken tiles from the rack and place them on the top of the rack, taken tiles from their rack. So either of those two things happen, you're locked in and committed to that call. Now, if you have not done one of these two things and you want to change your mind, you can, but you've just given away some valuable information. And you better believe that on that next round, if somebody has your tile in their hand, it's going to go down on the table. So, yeah. So, and I, with a newer player, the best advice I could give you is try to watch what's going out. Have your, if you're not sure, a lot of people do certain things in their rack, inside their rack, so they could tell what they need. Don't turn your tile sideways to tell what you need. I turn mine upside down if I am ready to call something, and that way it alerts me to what it is, and that will help you, prevent you from actually calling the tile that you don't need. Look, it happens to everybody. It happens to advanced players where we call and we change our mind. But if you can do that, turn the tile upside down. That's one of the best things, I think, so that visually you know what you're ready to call. It'll help. Now, this was in the 2020 National Mahjong League Bulletin, not in the rule book. Okay, what do we got now? We got a player calls and exposes tiles, and then starts to expose other tiles from their rack as if they have Mahjong, but they do not. Okay, so what are we saying here? It sounds a little confusing when I read it. So player calls a tile and exposes and puts tiles up. Then they start, so they made one exposure. Now they start to expose other tiles from their rack. They think they have Mahjong. We don't even know that they're thinking that, but obviously, if someone's going to start taking tiles from their rack, it appears that they might have Mahjong, right? Well, as long as Mahjong has not been declared, they can take those tiles and return all but the original exposure to their rack. Now, guess what? I'm not proud of this or anything, but I mean, I'm just telling you because it's a situation. I wrote to the league about this, and I got an answer from them, and they told me that they were going to probably mention this in the bulletin, and they did. So they put it in the bulletin. They thought it was important enough to mention. Okay, I didn't get credit for it in the bulletin, but I do have the letter, so I know that it was from my letter. So anyway, this is newly noted in the 2022 bulletin. Now, of course, again, you're giving away valuable information, so the only person it hurts is the person that ended up not having the Mahjong. Now, if they had declared Mahjong and it was a Mahjong, it would be a Mahjong in error, and we have to go backward to those Mahjong in error scenarios. Okay. All right, let's see what else we got here. A call tile cannot be used for a joker exchange. Oh my goodness, I get asked this a lot. You cannot use a called tile in a joker exchange. A call tile can only be used for an exposure or for Mahjong. And the only way to get a joker is through picking from the wall or already having that tile in your rack. And that's in the Bulletin 2020, not in the rule book. All right, good to know though. All righty, a tile discarded before player picks cannot be called. So you forgot to pick and you ended up discarding. That's a dead discard. This was recently asked too, and this was newly in the bulletin, and a letter, I think, was put in there as a result of someone's letter. So another good one to know. How would we know it? We wouldn't know it because we can't go to the rule book and find some of these rules. Okay, this is another really good one. A player's pick is interrupted by a call. If a player's pick is interrupted by a call, the tile is put back in its original spot in the wall. The reason this to me is so important is because, and it was in the 2021 bulletin, so obviously somebody either called the league or wrote to them about this, is that many people have told me that they thought they had to bury the tile in another arbitrary place in the wall. But nope, even if they see the tile, it goes back. So that's the way that happens. All right, let's see what else we got here. We've got during the Charleston, it's discovered a player has too few or too many tiles. The game does not officially begin until East discards their 14th tile. So in this particular case, you can't call somebody's hand dead. You just throw in the tiles and start all over again. Another one in a bulletin, not in Mah Jongg Made Easy. Now, Mah Jongg Made Easy, they call it the guidebook. The last publication was 2020. So it's always fun to see what rules they will add in there from all of the bulletins when they finally publish a new version. And it's not going to be this year because I tried to find out and they said, nope. So maybe next year, 2020, that, yeah, could be a good amount of time to get a new book going now. Commitment to a joker exchange. I get asked this a lot too. If you take a joker for someone's rack, you can't change your mind. But it's not in the bulletin. So how would you know? I mean, it's in the bulletin. Sorry, it's not in Mah Jongg Made Easy. So how would you know? If you're not reading every single bulletin and you don't have all of these back issues, how would you know that? Hopefully somebody else knows that you ask and they'll tell you. All right, stopping the second Charleston. The second Charleston can be stopped as long as no one has picked up their second left. That was in the 2023 bulletin, but it's not in the rule book, or what they call the guidebook. Okay. Let's see. Simultaneous rack and call for an exposure. A player who calls a tile takes precedence over the player who picks from the wall. And this is one of those situations where you pick the tile up and you look at it and you see it's a joker and you have not racked it. And somebody else calls at the same time from the wall. Guess what happens? You got to get the joker back. And most of the time I hear people tell the person who's next to pick, you're going to like that tile. Unfortunately, it's one of those things. But again, this is a simultaneous rack and call. It's got to be really within a few seconds. No more. Simultaneous means at the same time. But I don't know that I've ever seen it be like exactly. So I'd say 1 to 2 seconds will make it simultaneous. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's see. Calling a tile and exchanging a joker. This is a really, really big one and gets to be very confusing. A player cannot use a joker exchange to add to an exposure after calling a tile. So let's say you call a tile and you do an exposure. and then you do your joker exchange, and you need that joker to add it to the exposure because you were thinking that you could use the joker because you put up a pung and you need a kong, you can't do it. So this is also in a letter from the league to a player, and the reason that they have implemented this rule that's not in the rule book is because they consider it two separate actions. Calling a tile is one action, doing a joker exchange is another. Now, you can do the joker exchange as well, but that joker has to go in your rack on the sloping part, and then you use it as you see fit, whether you want to use it in, for another exposure in the future, you can, but it cannot be used at that time. Another amazing rule, important rule, and it's not in the book. All righty. This is a brand new rule. I'm not sure if this is the one you were referring to, Connie, but this is a brand new.
No, that's me.
Oh, Connie, you said it? No.
Phyllis.
Phyllis?
Yeah, Phyllis.
Okay. Okay. But I thought I saw Connie mention something too about it, but maybe not. So this is a brand new rule. They did not put it in the Q&A section. They put it in a box on one of the pages at the bottom and just said new rule, and decided to change the current rule to the new rule. So let's talk about what the current rule was before, the previous rule, I should say. So the previous rule was when you call a tile, the tile could go in your rack with among your other tiles on that sloping part. Oh, Connie.
I'm not the one who said it. That's a different rule that I'm talking about.
Okay. But Connie said you said it, right?
Yeah, she did.
Okay, good. Perfect. I want to make sure. Okay. And then Phyllis, oh no. Okay. All right. So current rule was, I keep saying current because I can't get over it's not current still. The previous rule was you can pick a tile from the table. When you call it, put it in your rack or up on top of the flat part of your rack. It didn't matter. But people were teaching, or instructors, I should say, including myself, were teaching, call the tile and put it directly up on the flat part of your rack. Because tournaments have been for years requiring that. They have implemented that if you take a tile and put it in the slope part of your rack, you're dead. Now the league has decided to adopt that rule. One caveat. Does anybody know what that one caveat is? Feel free to chime in if you know it. There's always something. It's never cut and dry with these rules.
There's no penalty?
Yes. Renee, good job. No penalty. Really? I mean, oh my God. So now the question becomes, what do you do with the that calls a tile and puts it in their rack with the other tiles? Make up a table rule? I don't even know. I just don't know. I scratch my head sometimes. Carol said no penalty too. Oh my God. Okay, well, it is what it is. And I will say, because it sounds like I'm ragging on the league and the rule book, but it is frustrating. But I'm very grateful to them for bringing this standardized version, which is not so standardized, to the states and creating this amazing game that is wonderful. Okay, so that's that one. Now, we have a toppled tile must be put back in the same place. This is pretty important too. People don't know about it. A tile gets toppled out when the wall is being pushed out or however it gets knocked over, and you could see it. People think that they should take the tile and bury it somewhere arbitrarily in the wall. But again, with this particular one, like the previous one, it's got to go. The previous rule that we talked about was not putting, seeing a tile that you've picked that you have to put back. It goes right in the same spot. Right in the same spot. You don't hide it. Mahjong League's Bulletin 2021 was the last time we saw this one. And by the way, all of the sources that with the dates of bulletins, it's the last bulletin that I'm aware of that it was mentioned in.
Mhm.
If I ever had to mention the rules and how many bulletins they've been mentioned in, they go back so many years. So I always put the latest. Wrong discard used in an exposure. If a player picks up the wrong discard and makes an invalid exposure, the exposure cannot be corrected by putting the wrong tile back and taking the right tile. And this was in a bulletin, the 2012 bulletin. That's the last time. Now, there could be letters out there. Keep in mind, unless somebody shares a letter or shares a phone call with the public, we only know what we've asked individually, personally. So in this particular case, if there is a wrong tile picked up and nobody notices it, the game is going to go on until somebody notices it and calls the player's hand dead. Hopefully somebody will notice it sooner than later, because if they don't notice it, they're going to have an invalid Mahjong. Okay, let's go on here. I think we're just about done too. A joker exchange resulting in Mahjong. If a player exchanges a joker, whether from their own exposure or someone else's, it is considered a self-pick Mahjong. We already talked about this, but I repeated it because it is under the rules not found in Mahjong made easy. Let's see if we have a couple more. I think we have till 20. All right, the League on House Rules. I included this because this was something, and there was a lot of controversy about this. If you guys have been watching, oh, Carol, no penalty on which one?
No, that was before.
Okay, good. I wanted to make sure I didn't miss it.
No,
Okay,
before.
so this was just put in a 2023 letter to a player, and it had people in an uproar like crazy. Hi, Jingles. I don't know how long you've been in, but hello out there. Okay, so the league has never condoned house rules, and they pretty much have discouraged them all of these years. Now they write a letter, and the letter says, we suggest that each game determines what rule is acceptable to all players and that the rule become part of the game's repertoire. After all, we must remember that Mahjong is designed for pleasure and friendship and enjoyed by all. And I think that should be enjoyed by all. I'm going to get a gold star one day. No mistakes in anything I do. No, it's not possible. I'm human. So, all right. So anyway, people are really upset about this wording. I think it also went on to say, and I didn't put the whole letter because I don't know that I have the whole letter, but I think they also kind of mentioned in it that the house rules would supersede.
Yes.
Right? Isn't that in there?
Yes, something like that's the part everyone.
That, but I think I've got to, yeah, I think I've got to revise this and add that. So that's what really got people real upset, because they've never condoned house rules. Now all of a sudden they're like, oh yeah, we're all for them. You have fun, and whatever you decide should be priority over National Mahjong League rules. Okay. That's crazy hearing that from them. All right, let's go on. All right, this is kind of a fun one that not a lot of people know, but it was mentioned, the word pie. Everybody knows when they go to play Mahjong, what's pie? What are we playing for, right? And so it's interesting to know that the league spelled it P-Y. It's not the Greek letter and it's not the mathematical, whatever it is. I think, what is it? I don't know, something like that. But anyway, it was mentioned in 1967 bulletin.
Wow.
Over the years, isn't that crazy? Over the years, someone came up with this really cute. Is it a mnemonic? Would they call it if you use, or I guess I think it's
Yeah.
like, right?
Right.
For pie, spelling it P-I-E, meaning purse is empty, because when you go pie, you lose all your money. And so that's so cute. And not a lot of people know it, but it's a fun, cute little thing. That's why I wanted to include that. Okay, so this is a picture of what you're going to be able to download when I get this video up. It'll be about 24 hours before I get it up and get the link on it. 2 pages. This one here, I'll go through it again and make sure there were a couple of places. I had a couple of things I had to add. I'll make sure that this is as accurate as possible. And the next page is this one. And they should print out when you have the link into an 8.5 by 11 full sheet of paper. Just perfect for laminating a full page and keeping these on you. Because again, you can't like just pick up the rule book and find these rules in there. However, there is one place that you can find it. Thank you, Connie. Thank you so much. There is one place that you can find these rules as well. And I said I wanted to show you the tables in this Majpedia for those of you that don't know about it. So we're going to go there in a minute after I get done with this. There's only a few more slides. I also want to just quickly mention the player database, which is also on the website. Please include yourself in this. The way you do it is go to the contact button on the website, fill in, just put your name, email, and give me your city, state, zip code. 3 pieces of information. You want to include your phone number? Great. I'll get an email and we'll add you into the player database. This helps people connect to you and them to find, and for you to find them, whether you're on vacation, visiting somewhere, just needing a new group. It's going to grow. It's already growing. I've already made connections. It's wonderful. And my goal is to get all of these people that I don't know replaced with people that I do know. So I'm going to be sending out a fun email to people to share a photo if they would like to of their group or a single picture, so I can actually replace it and kind of rotate people in and out, maybe on a monthly basis. Okay. The other thing, for those of you who came in late, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, MahjCon. Give me a like, comment, share. Don't forget to click the bell to get notifications of new videos when they're posted. I have plans for some really good video series that will not be live streams, but they will be video series, really geared for the newer player. So you may not all be at that, interested in those, but they will be really good to help people segue out from online playing to in-person playing. I think that's it for this. I want to get down here. I want to minimize this. I want to go in here. Now you're going to get to see my horrible, terrible, well, whoops. Okay, what happened? Oh, it's probably here. I got to move it over here. All righty. Ah, my mouse does some funky things sometimes. Okay, let's just go right here. So I want to just show you this. For those of you who have not been here. Okay, this is the actual player database, by the way. It's searchable. You can search by state. You can search by zip code. Lots of people in here. And here is the Mahjpedia. So let's take a look at the Mahjong and error rules. Let me see if I could find the one that has the, here we go. Okay, so these are pretty much the ones that were on there. So this gives you the situation and the payout in more of a, kind of easy to read step by step. So come in, take a look at this Mahjpedia. It's an encyclopedia for Mahjong rules, strategies, and more. Feel free to click that contact us button on the website if you have an idea for something that's not in here that you want me to add, something's missing, you want a strategy article, because I do have some strategy articles in here. Be more than happy to get that in there for you. So come in and look at the website. There's a lot of really good stuff in here. It's packed through full of stuff for you all to help you grow your game. And if you're not part of Wednesday night, please join me on Wednesday night. I really, I just love spending the couple hours with you guys. It's a whole lot of fun. Even though I'll be a whiner, even though I haven't seen any jokers, maybe one or two, the entire night in the past 2 weeks. Phyllis, will you attest to this for me?
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been really, really challenging, but it's not about winning. It's about navigating through the Charleston, decision-making galore, switching out of hands, all of that stuff. So please come and join me on Wednesday night. And this did go a little bit over an hour, but I hope you all enjoyed it and I hope you learned something. And I will get those infographics up for you so that you have those. Feel free to contact me through the contact us about anything else. And until I see you guys again for the next live stream, which I do these once a month. So you'll get notice on the next one coming up. Until then, be safe, play a lot of Mahjong and get a lot more jokers. Oh, somebody asked, how do we join Wednesday nights? Go to MahjCon Facebook page, join the group if you're not a member, and click on events. I could go there really quick and show you since I'm on here. Okay, so you're going to go to the MahjCon Facebook group. Did I go in? Where is it? Here it is. Go in here, browse, go to events. And there we got it. Next one is coming up tomorrow night. I mean, it's Wednesday night. Oh, it's only Monday. So that's the next one right there. That's how you get in. If you click on this, you'll see the information about it. There's the Zoom. Click see more. There's how to connect through YouTube. I usually have folks on both, so feel free to come in any way you feel comfortable. And I hope to see you there. You guys have a nice night and a great rest of the week until I see you again. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, guys. See you soon. Bye.